You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
For the majority of us, we have an inner monologue, which is going on in the background in our minds constantly while you're going about your day, while you're getting ready in the morning, while you're doing your work, thinking of what you're going to do in your business today. What sort of content might you put out? Even the things like what you should be wearing. Now, often, because we happen to have very critical, overachieving personalities inside, that voice that's happening is negative. There's negative self-talk going on inside your head, and it's having a bigger impact on you than you might even realize. So today's episode is all about understanding how to recognize and how to free yourself from this negative self-talk so that you can actually start to step into the shoes of who you really are and not who your little voice in the head is telling you that you should be. So it's a great one coming up today. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
Now, if you're a coach, a consultant, or a service-based business owner, and you're really tired of being told to do this or that, implementing someone else's method, all of the steps, and then still finding that it's really, really hard to attract the right clients. You're not hitting your profit goals, you're miles away from it, and it's all just feeling super time consuming and hard work. And maybe you just don't even like what they've told you to do. Like maybe they've said, go and cold DM people who you find on Instagram, and you are just not in the energetic space of the cold DM. Well, guess what? This just means that instead of following someone's method, which has worked for them, it's actually about defining your core strategy that underpins these methods that you might use and actually makes any method you choose successful. So you can choose the ones that you like the best. Imagine that. You don't have to do those cold DMs at all. In fact, I highly recommend not doing it. You can choose whatever works for you, and also knowing how to choose the right thing so that you've got a flow with no gaps, with no breaks in the journey where people are just dropping through that hole and never making it through to the end. Well, yes, there is a way to do that, right? This is called a strategic framework where you've got the pieces and there's a way that you put it together, you connect these pieces so that there is flow in your business, so there's alignment with you and alignment with your goals. And this framework I've developed is called the Jam Plan. I offer it to you inside Business Jam, which is my program. Now, this is a coaching program with online content, with live coaching, with training, and with a beautiful supportive community, which I think is so important that you're not with all this information and figuring it out on your own and feeling like, well, am I doing it right? Am I not doing it right? What is going on? Actually having other people who are there with you, who have similar businesses, who can be your cheer squad, who can give you that support, motivation, and actually also give you some real good feedback as well as getting advice and coaching, of course, from me in the program. Now, that's all waiting for you inside Business Jam. The doors currently, right this moment, are closed. However, they will be opening again, and sooner than you really know. They'll be coming up really soon. So get your name on the wait list now. Now, I have a priority wait list, and this priority wait list is for those who think, I really want to be first. I like to be first in line. I like to get the best seats. I like to have all of the best things, the VIP room at the club with the champagne and the canapes. I like that kind of treatment. Well, if that's you, get your name on the priority wait list, please. And you will be first in line. You'll be first to know. There will be some extra things coming your way that the people who are in the main line won't know about. So get your name on the priority wait list. You will be first to hear about Business Jam when it's opening next, and to be the first ones able to take that step forward and come into my inner circle and really think about, well, it might not be right for you, but you'll be able to make that choice because you'll be there, you'll be hearing about it before anybody else. So no obligation, of course. You can just put your name on the list. You can still decide at the time whether it's right for you, whether you want to join or not. But by putting your name on the list, it means that you're obviously going to be first in, best dressed, if you decide to take that step forward. So head over to jessicaosborne.com/business jam waitlist and get your name on the list. I've dropped that link as well below for you in the show notes. So you can go ahead and click on that and get your name on the list right now. And look out for the first goodies that come your way as the VIPs on my priority list.
My very special guest today is Megan Gibson, who is a life alignment coach, a fellow podcaster, and an author. She's an expert in the transformative journey of deep self-discovery, and her specially formulated one-to-one process helps those clients that she works with to uncover deeply held intrinsic values and their unique gifts. As a mother with grown-up children, she understands the importance of leading by example in a world that lacks authenticity and vulnerability. Megan's podcast, a Freed to Be You podcast, helps inspire women to imagine a life and business where they no longer have to pretend to be something that they're not. Instead, she empowers us to embrace our authentic selves, step out of self-abandonment and into full self-expression. Now, Megan shares with us so many amazing points about how we're talking to ourselves, how we're showing up, and who it is that we're really being. I know you're going to absolutely love this episode, so let me play the interview for you now.
Okay, and I'm here today with the lovely Megan Gibson, who's a fellow Aussie, like me. We live on the coast, but the coast on either side of Brisbane, actually. She's on the Goldie and I'm on the Sunshine Coast. And we've had the pleasure of meeting each other randomly online and just having this amazing idea. Let's do a podcast episode together. And I can't wait for this one today, Megan. Welcome to She's the Business.
Yes, thank you for having me. And if you feel called, most people call me Megs, so you're welcome to do that. Feels a little bit more conversational and more like me. I only get Megan when I'm in trouble. So yeah. You call me Megan for the remainder of the episode. I know I've done something wrong.
Oh, that's all good. Likewise, Jessica is normally like my formal name, that we have to write on forms and things, and everyone else just calls me Jess. So yes, likewise. So good to have you on today. And we are going to be talking about that mean voice, the inner critic, the negative self-talk. And it's so interesting. I was just laughing about this because how ironic and what a coincidence that we happen to meet and be doing this podcast episode today, because it was literally just like 2 or 3 days ago, I came across this post on Threads, and someone said, there's been a study or someone's put out a blog and not everybody has an internal monologue going on in their brain. And I was like, what? Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. Like, some people don't have that. That's just astonishing. I have one. I actually have a dialogue because the original voice that was me now has another voice that's like telling it to shut up and coming back with all the other things. So I'm really keen to talk about this with you today, but I'm already starting my monologue, as you can tell, and I'm going to ask you to share with everybody else a little bit about, what you do, who you are, a bit about your business, and then let's dive in and get all this juicy stuff happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that, by the way. It must be real noisy in there.
There's so much going on.
I have to agree. Oh gosh, so true. And I don't know how anyone else feels when you get told to introduce yourself, but she's right there. It's right there, having a good old go. But yeah. But yeah, I have been in the coaching space for around 8 years now, and I actually started out as a hairdresser, which is where I like to think my coaching started 6 years. I don't know, you do the math, you can work out how old I am, a long time ago. But, you know, because became fascinated with people and the things that hold them back. I don't know how you are when you go to the hairdressers or if you listen to the people around you, but people would come and see me, and then they would tell me all of their troubles, and then 8, 10, whatever weeks later they come back and they still got the same troubles. And so I just got fascinated with these things, these stories that people would tell me, and the conversations I would get in with people sharing their heart and soul for that few hours while they're sitting in the chair. And over the years, I found I got better at those conversations, and seemed to have good things to say and advice, and I don't know, it just sort of came naturally to me. But to get back to now, so I came into the coaching space in a more formal way when I joined an online community or an online academy, and they had a personal branding incubator for people to really put together a business and a brand that was authentic. And I absolutely loved that program, and I became a coach for them. So what I did was help people uncover the most important things to them, the things that were truest to who they were, so that we could put a pretty brand on that instead of who they think they should be and who they were showing up as in order to make money, if you want it, right? So that's where I started. And what I found was when I got feedback from people who had done that work with me, they actually found that it impacted their personal life and their health, their relationships, other areas of their life more than their actual business. And some of them never even built the business they thought they were going to build because they uncovered something about themselves that realized that that's not even what they wanted to do. So I got really fascinated with that even more, and I moved into sort of this self-discovery or self-actualization space around 4 years ago. And so around that time, I actually I have older children, so they're growing up now. They're all in there. My oldest one turns 21 in October, still blows my mind. And my youngest is 15. And I also have 4 other children that I am lucky enough to bring up with their dad. So there's 7 altogether. And I found they're all growing up and they don't need us like they used to. They certainly don't need me as much as they used to. And this creates a big void, or it did for me anyway. So as I came into my 40s, my children were growing up and I had all this time and space. I was obviously still had my coaching, but I wanted to get into that more. And it was really a big transition of me having to rediscover what my life was going to look like on the other side of being a busy mum, because they're older now. My relationship also, I had a 20-year marriage, which also ended around that same time. So it was a massive transition for me.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I'm so passionate about working with women over 40 is because out of all the people that I've worked with that have been women in that age group, a lot of them found that was a really big transition for them, whether their marriage was victored or not, but just their kids getting older, that particular time in their life, and not just women, men too, but women relate to me.
Yeah.
It's a big transition for them. And so rediscovering who you are on the other side of that, I found that because I was already doing that work, I'm someone who walks my talk. I don't like the idea of going to a fat personal trainer. I wouldn't be able to do what they told me what to do. So I'm kind of in the same type of coach. It's like I eat my own cooking. Thank goodness, because within 4 years, I've completely shifted my life now to a point where I'm obsessed with every area of my life. I have a great relationship with an amazing man. My health I'm healthier than I've been in a long time. You know, I'm doing this amazing work and meeting with people like yourself and my clients. So I'm just super passionate about making sure that people rediscover that who they are on the other side of this journey so they can have the rest of their life be amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's just the beginning, not an ending, but it feels like an ending, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And like so much in what you just said there, I was like, oh my goodness, yes, so many things. Like I'm wondering where to start, but I agree. I think that there is something, and I can speak as well from personal experience as a woman over 40. When I hit the magical 40, I don't know, it was weird. It was like something shifted, and I'm not sure if it's just you've got to that point where you've had enough life experience. You just start to be like a lot more like, well, I'm not here for that, and I don't want that, and I'm not going to do those things anymore. For me, it was actually when I gave up my corporate career that I'd spent 20 years, 22 years building.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like that happened, and it was like, it's massive to do that, because that I'd literally been thinking that's what I should be doing. I'm like doing all the things that I should be doing, and I'm listening to whatever that voice was internally. And I got there and I was like, okay, I'm in the role that I probably always thought I wanted to be in. I was head of marketing for a top 100 ASX listed firm. I had everything on paper, 2 beautiful little kids, all of this stuff. And I was just like, this is crap. Like, this career, I am not fulfilled. I feel like a puppet in a role. Like, I've got just all of the things. And I'd always wanted to own my own business. And so I blew up my career and decided to go into, well, not completely. Obviously, I used that experience to be able to coach other people, because I was like, well, I loved the fact that my team, I would mentor them and I would help them. I wasn't the sort of manager that would want to tell everyone, this is how you've got to do it. And I'd say, look, this is what I want, the end goal. Like, you go and do it. You need my help, ask me questions and I'll help you, but I'm not going to do the job for you. Like, I was like, I've got my own shit to do. I don't want to do your job. That's the sort of manager I was. And I realized like really quickly, it was like, actually, this is exactly the same kind of thing as when you're coaching somebody. It's like, but instead of me telling them what the end goal is, they're telling me what their end goal is. And then I'm like being that mentor and coach to help them to reach it. And anyway, but like, what a thing, you blow up your career. I think when you get to 40, there's a lot of stuff happening, and I'm not sure what it is. Is it physiologically? Are there other things that happen to us women when we get to that point? I've seen so many of my friends as well just be like, they've gone from someone who was always just trying to toe the line and be whoever everyone else wanted them to be, and suddenly at 40 they're like, stuff it, I'm me. I'm doing whatever I want now. And I love that. It's so amazing. But some people struggle with it more than others, right? Which is I guess why we're here talking about this today, because we've all got this, well, not everybody apparently, but we have a mean voice, an inner monologue that can be really critical. And it's interesting that you say it, because it's like, until you actually stop to listen to what you're saying to yourself and actually pay attention to what you're saying, like how mean it can be is like mind-blowing. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like when I just like ask you some questions, like
go for
what you were talking about, because I think that there's some relevance there, and then maybe we can get into more of the what to do now. But when you're saying you're helping people to make themselves into a brand that actually was sort of them and not just who they thought that they should be in order to make money. Being a marketer and obviously someone who does branding, I was like, yes, oh my God, that's exactly it. Why do you think it's so hard because it's exactly what I like to talk about with people, my clients. It's like, it's not about what other people want or think of you. It's actually who you are that we need to show them who you are, so that they can connect with the real you, because there's no point in them falling in love with a fake persona that actually isn't you. So what is it? How do you help people to discover what that is? Is that the first step of going internal to discover really who they are? What happens?
There's so much in that. I think I agree with you completely. Let me touch on one thing just around the voice side of things. So I think the reason that people are so resistant, is probably the word I'm looking for, to brand who they really are, is twofold. One, they don't know who they are really. And two, they're too scared, because what if people don't like it? And they compare themselves to other people. They see what's working for someone else and they think that's what they have to do. And so all this stuff gets in the way of them actually showing up, and I don't really like the word branding, but branding themselves as who they actually are, right? I mean, there's like when we talk about branding, it could be all sorts of things, right? It could be the pretty colors and the logo and the photos. And some people refer to that as branding. Other people, it's, you know, the message or whatever. To me, it's all of it. But most importantly, it's what people feel when they come across you. And if you are coming across as somebody that you're not, it's going to get really exhausting to try and uphold that.
Yes.
What people are believing about you if it's not true, and it's like you've got to constantly keep up that appearance, and it burns you out. And so it affects your health, it then affects your relationships, it affects everything. So, you know, if we really wind it right back, I think the first step is just actually being brave enough to open the bag. Be like, really, let's go deep and see what's in there. And when you do that, then you uncover all sorts of things. Obviously, we uncover what we want to find, but we uncover a lot of things that we were too scared to look at as well. Yeah. And that was kind of my experience with doing that work myself. I obviously went through this process. That's how I ended up being a coach, right? So I went through this incubation process. I went through and I had a coach and did this work, uncovered a whole bunch of stuff that I wasn't prepared for. And not that obviously, you know, that you can go and get professional help for some of those things. I didn't, it wasn't that bad, but I really had to face some things that I hadn't looked at in a long time. So a lot of who we are and who we are is what we want to put out there. So we need to know what that is. But a lot of the things that are in the way start when we're really young.
Yeah.
So what I find is that the process that I go through with people in that space and now is not too much different. It's just the first step that we're talking about. It's not too much different. It really is an unpacking. Right. It's like, so we get everything out. We look at the highs and the lows. We look at the things that you've been through in a really objective way, but we do go deep. And so when we uncover something that's perhaps a little difficult to look at, we see that obviously the value in that, but obviously the things we need to let go of. And so when I uncovered this mean girl voice that we're talking about, when I uncovered the root of that, or the origin of that was a big turning point for me, because it really allowed me to see that I am not that. That is not me. That is the part of me that keeps me safe, that keeps me small, and stops me from putting myself out there in case I get hurt, or in case I feel the way I felt when story was created ever again. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that was stuff that I started to uncover when I was doing that work myself, and obviously for others. And that's why I'm super passionate now about helping people go from obviously, you know, looking at that for that reason to like, okay, we want to get rid of those things so you can show up in the world, or show up for your family, show up in your business, show up wherever you are without having any kind of filter on that. Just be freed to be yourself.
Yeah.
Just so freeing, and it's the most amazing feeling when you can just express yourself in a way that's natural. It's not exhausting. It's actually energizing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much in what you said, and you know, I was thinking back to previous versions of me where I definitely, you know, I grew up and then I think was always a little bit shy. My parents sort of a bit reserved, and then I never thought of myself as someone who is, you know, confident or out there. And going into business, you know, I just spent my whole career in marketing, but it wasn't me. I was marketing, like I was behind the scenes. I wasn't doing any of the talking, and like tell me to get out there and suddenly put my face out there. It was like, oh, it's so confronting. Luckily, I happened to do this at the same time I had a brand new baby in like literally I was, you know, breastfeeding, brand new baby. And I think my brain was just so tired and adult and things. I just go, you know what? Screw it. Just do it. Just get on it. What's the worst that could happen? No one's even going to see it anyway. So I think because I was so tired, I didn't have time to faff around. I was like, it's now or never. And I did my first lives with the baby on my belly, like in a little sleep carrier and stuff. Cause I'm like, whatever, you know, I'm just going to do it the way that I can do it right now. And that was it. I think that was actually the best thing, because it was sort of like just jumping in with both feet. But I could hear when you were talking about, you know, you want to uncover and sort of, you know, create that brand, the brand essence. of you that is the real you. And like the instant thing that popped into my head was like, but what if people don't like the real me? What if I create this brand around who I really am? And it's like, you know, and it's that instant thing, isn't it? Like that thought came in straight away. Obviously, I heard it and went, well, that's not going to happen. So, you know, here's my little dialogue of like mean girl voice, and then the other one that chimes in and tells it to shut up. But I think for a lot of people, that mean girl voice is the only voice that's happening, right? So it's like, but you can't just put yourself out there, because what are people going to think? And I don't know, like, what do you do? So is this about a lack of confidence in themselves? Is it about, you know, people pleasing? Like, why are we, and I think this is something that's probably far more prevalent in women, right? We're so concerned about what people are going to think, and why should we be scared that people would not like who we really are? Surely that helps us attract people who would resonate with ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, yes, 100%. That was exactly what I was going to say. Look, I actually say, I hope that there is some people that don't like who I am.
Yeah.
Because I can't serve the whole world. I mean, I'd like to think I can, but that would be pretty arrogant to think that everyone's going to like me, right? So if you are wanting to create a business and a brand and work with clients that you love, then you're going to you want to polarize that audience, right? You want to go, okay, then I only want to attract the ones that are going to be in that camp. And there are going to be some that aren't in that camp. So there's going to be some that like you and some that don't. So, you know, that's kind of the first thing. I'm just trying to remember the other thing you said.
Sorry, I think I layered 3 questions on top of each other.
I do it all the time. It's all good. I had so many things I was going to say then.
Sort of like, you know, whether it's people pleasing or is it a lack of self-confidence, you know, are they one and the same? Like, or is there a difference there?
Yeah. So what I have found is that one of the reasons we get so worried about what people is going to think is because we don't know what we think. Well, we don't even know who we are ourselves. We don't have confidence and self-assurance around who we are. And what I find is when you unpack, like I said, and we find the things that are really valuable and unique to you, the things that you can kind of rescue from the past, that is wisdom that you have from your own unique experience, and you learn how to value those things, then that gives you confidence, because you go, oh, actually, I'm really good at this and I'm really good at that, and I'm not good at that, so I'm not going to do any of that. I am really passionate about one of my values. To give you an example, I always like to use examples. One of my values is inclusion. I'm very, 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 very aligned and value inclusion. So you'll find if I'm in a big group, I tend to look for people who aren't, like, naturally look for people who aren't included in the conversation or on the outers. And I don't know, I just find a way to bring them in. It's not something I think about. It's an innate thing. And it comes from a very specific event in my childhood, or number of events, but one in particular. I know exactly where the origin of it is. That was a very painful thing that I went through, but I now look back on with gratitude and thankfulness, because that's actually a really beautiful thing about me. And I wouldn't be that if I didn't go through that. Yes. So do you see how, like, that's just one example of where, like, you go, okay, this happened to me. It's not something I've ever liked thinking about, but now I look at it in a whole new way. I've repacked it in a way that's actually valuable, that can serve me moving forward. And it gives me confidence to show up in a way that is actually going to be in alignment with that. And and I don't have to think about it. It's so natural to me. So imagine if you had a whole group of those things that you can go back and get and go forward with, and then that's who you get to show up as. And it's effortless, right? Yeah. Instead of being, well, I need to be this way or I need to be that way because that's this person that I admire online. I really love their brand and I really love how they show up. And so you study them and then you start to kind of, and it's like, that's not you. And it's authentic and it stands out a mile away, especially online. But even in person, you can feel it when someone is being themselves and they're free. It's the most freeing. Yeah. And it gives other people around you permission to be the same. When you're around somebody who's really natural and free and they're not pretending and you can tell, you relax and other people around you relax and then they get to be that too. Does that make sense? So I think that as women in particular, we tend to, we're nurturers. right? So we're naturally nurturers. And this is another big thing that I talk about on my podcast, which is self-abandonment. So as mothers, when we're bringing up our families, we naturally put our own desires and our own dreams on the shelf until we have time to come back and look at them at a later date, right? Usually when like I said, in our 40s. But we put the things we want aside so we can be an amazing mum. And some of us obviously still work. I've always had something that I've been either hairdressing, my own salon. I've always earned money on the side, but my mind and my focus was always on my family. And so we tend to self-abandon naturally, which is not a bad thing. Some of us self-abandon unhealthily as well. And then we need to learn how to come back from that. But that rediscovery of that identity, who you are on the other side of all the things that have happened to you, and because of all the things that have happened to you, can be a really enlightening experience. And I think that it gives you confidence. It gives you confidence to step into that, because you get to own it. You get to own the stuff that you didn't like, and then you get to own the stuff that you do like, and you get to be more of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, I'm just sitting there thinking, I completely 100% align with that. And, I think that it's a beautiful process, really, because so many of those things that might have happened in the past that we're holding on to as negative energy and negative experience, it's like when you go back and actually take the time to look at it and see, well, okay, that happened. Yes, it may not have been the best thing for me at the time, but what has it meant? What has it led to? What did I learn from that?
Yeah.
Who have I become because of it? I was just thinking of examples in my head as well while you were talking of like, gosh, I've got so many of them. And I think that I've been doing that as well in this process of, well, who is it? Who am I? Who am I showing up to be? What is it that is about me? And I think the most important thing, and from a brand perspective as well, here's the marketer coming back again.
Yeah,
but,
go for it.
the real benefit in doing this work, like you're saying, and actually finding that true essence of you, and then being you, and actually finding the way to display it through everything you do as a business. And I am exactly like you. Brand is not a logo and colors and a font. That is like a very minor part of your visual identity. Your brand is like, it's your vibe. It's how people feel about you. It's your values. It's what you say. It's how you say it. Is the energy that you're showing up with, the way that you're making someone feel. That is your brand. And, regardless of whether you're a personal brand or a business brand, you can still have a lot of those aspects. It's a bit harder when you've got less person and more object, but you can still do it, because trust me, I've done it before with other brands. However, the thing is that, and this is what I think is what is the beautiful part of what you're saying, when you're doing this as you, your brand is not going out of date. It is not like a trendy thing that you've done because, these are the trendy colors at the moment, I'm going to choose them. And that's me, and that's who it is. And then it's like, oh no, now my mentor or the people I'm following are doing all of this, and now I'm going to morph myself and be that. And now I'm going to, it's like, if you're trying to follow a trend, you're going to be changing what that is all the time. You're going to have no brand equity, no history that kind of gets built with you. And like you said, it's really obvious that it's not really you, that it's just sort of like this face or the front that you're putting on, like your telephone voice that we all used to put on. And days of answering the telephone. I think that to me, from having managed brands and doing all of that stuff to then having my own, I love having my own business now. And the beautiful thing about it is, it's like I chose the colors based on something that I love, which is the beach. And I can see your beach photo behind you. And obviously we're both coast girls, but I'm like, the teal, the golden sand, the dark blue of the deep sea, and then a bit of a splash of red. That's always a nice little vibrant color. That sort of like made up my brand. And I drew on just myself. This is what I love. And it's like, how does it ever feel like it's not me anymore? Because it's not. It's like so at my core that it can't not be me. I don't feel any need to change it 7 years down the track. It's like it is still 100% entirely me. And that's the beauty of this, right? It's like when you go that deep into what you're saying, like really uncover you and what it is about you and who you are, you're not just picking things that you think you should be, that you're like, well, I think that I should look, professional, whatever that is, because I'm a lawyer, or because I'm, a registered, whatever it is, and you've got these qualifications. And I just see so many people that aren't ready to let go of that, find so much struggle and pain in how they communicate and show up online, because they're always trying to be seen as something that they're kind of creating over here, and it's like not ready to actually just be themselves. And I love this process you're sharing with us, because I'm like, boom, this is exactly it. And it's a very, I think that it does take that time, maybe the internal work, and I think having somebody to help you pull those things out and attach different meanings to it can be so powerful, can't it?
100%. And the other thing that you were saying there about not having to change it like 7 years down the line. The other example, and my partner and I love this example actually, is because he's in business as well for himself, and we talk about branding a lot. And it's like, if you're going to build, well, you need to decide what you're going to build. Are you going to build like a little shack on the beach just for the day where it just needs to survive in the wind? Or are we going to build a skyscraper that's going to be standing there in years and years and years to come? You're going to need different foundations for that skyscraper than you're going to need for, just shelter for the day. Like you're going to have to go deep. You're going to have to put solid foundations in the ground so that stands the test of time, so that it stands for a long time. Doesn't mean you're not going to paint it a different color at some point and, freshen it up or whatever. That's okay. But what it is at the core, the structure and the foundation of that needs to be solid. And I guess that's kind of, to me, why I believe going deep like this is really, really important when it comes to what we're talking about with branding. But I mean, just sort of getting back to kind of the other work that I do, I think it's the same in life. If you don't go deep and you don't know who you are and you don't know what it is that you want, and how are you ever going, and you don't get rid of the things out of the way that you don't want anymore, because we also need to know both of these. We need to know what we do want, what we don't want, so that we can make decisions that are going to actually be in alignment with where we want to go. If we don't do that work, then we're just going to be throwing mud at the wall and hoping some of that sticks, and we're going to go with this partner and that partner or this business or that. Do you know what I mean? We're never going to be able to confidently, if we're talking about confidence here, confidently make a decision that you're going to put solid roots down with this person or this job or this business or whatever, so that you can build something that's going to last. Because we don't want to keep reinventing ourselves, our business, our life over and over and over again. It is a lot of work. It's exhausting, and I just think, of course, things are going to happen. Chaos is going to come, change is going to happen. But if you have a really deep understanding of who you are, then you're going to navigate those transitions and those times a whole lot better. A whole lot better. And you're going to make confident decisions.
And I was laughing because I'm thinking, and then you're not going to be the person showing up back at the hairdressers in 3 months' time with the same problems that you were talking about last time, right? Because you've done something,
this is the
and
thing.
You've shifted, and you've
come back with a success story instead.
That was kind of making me laugh, because I was thinking, gosh, when you're like, people go to the hairdresser and think about what they're thinking, and I'm always sitting there going, oh my God, look at the state of my face, like, why do I have such terrible lights, and like it's all this like mean girl voice.
We can go deeper with this. And I can tell you that they always wanted this big change to the hair when something bad was happening. It's like, this is not the time to make this. It's not the time to go red, Sally, let's overcome this first. And if you still feel like that in 6 weeks, then we'll do it,
Oh, funny. But that kind of brings me on to that question of like, so we started off talking a bit about negative voices, negative self-talk, and, that is so prevalent. Do you think, like, is that where we begin with the negative self-talk? And, I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are on it, and if you've got any strategies of ways that you can get rid of it or make it less, apart from adding another voice back, because it's kind of a bit noisy for me at the moment.
Look, and you know what? I found that it's not at the beginning necessarily that this happens. So you can do all this work and you can uncover who you are, and you can be brave enough to go, okay, I have all this, this knowledge about myself. I'm ready to put myself out there. And it's when you go to do it, when you go to actually put you out there, that can be when I say she, because we're talking, you are generally talking to women, but it's men as well. Because that can be when it's the loudest, when she's the loudest, is when you are at the precipice of stepping over the line and going after it. Yeah. So that can happen at the beginning, but it can happen anytime. And it's not like it ever goes away. So I don't know who these people are that don't have one. I'm a little bit envious of that, but it never goes away. You just get better at harnessing it and using it to your advantage, I would say. Right. So one of the things that I found really helped me, and I now do this with my clients as well, is actually like figuring out what it's saying. So what is she saying? What's the story that she has you believing about yourself? And there tends to be a variation of a few. It's not like there's, hundreds of different stories. It tends to you're either comparing yourself to somebody else, or you're not smart enough, or you're too much. That was one of mine. Whatever it is. So there's a number of them. So we figure out what it's saying. What's it saying? And then why is it saying that? And then the really fun thing to do is to actually give her a name, because what it does is actually you realize it's not who you really are. Yeah. You are not somebody who, if you were confident and you know who you are, you're not somebody who compares yourself to other people. You're amazing. Everyone's amazing. We're not somebody who thinks they're not smart. We're all, we all have inner wisdom that we have to share. We just don't know what it is yet. So obviously we're going to uncover all of that. But if we can go, okay, that's not me. It's a part of me. It's not going away. It's always going to be there. And the other thing too is to reframe and go, well, actually, the reason that it's there is to keep you safe. Mm-hmm. So like I said before, I uncovered that inclusion value, right? From a experience that happened to me a long time ago as a child. And this is around the same time that I solidified this story about myself as very related, and it happened around the same time where I'm just not good enough, not good enough, a whole version of the enoughs. And so I believed that. And so what that voice is there is to keep you safe, to stop you from ever feeling like that again. So whenever you get in a situation where that could happen, it's going to say, whoa, no, and try and keep you from moving forward, to keep you safe. But it also keeps you small, and it also keeps you hidden, which we don't want. So it's there to serve you if you can reframe it in a way that works. So I liked to give her a name. And that is who I am. Univa, I can help you with this. Because I was like, okay, well, when she's there and she's shouting at me, just be like, shut up, Bianca. I'm sorry if your name's Bianca. Shut up, Bianca. Like, I've got this. I know who I am, and go forward anyway. It's like that, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's like, why it's there. It's just there to keep you safe. There's a chance you could feel like this. So you step over. It's on the other side of that's where the freedom is, which is why I have my business is called Freed to Be You, not Free to Be You, because D is very important. D is, it's like on the other side of the work is the freedom. Doesn't stop. The work doesn't stop, but we need to step through it, right? So I actually have a really fun quiz if you'd like to take it, and I'm happy to share it with tell your listeners if you like. It's called the Freed from BS quiz. Yeah. And it's a quiz that helps you uncover your own mean girl and the bullshit, am I allowed to say that? That she has you believe about yourself. So like I said, there's a few versions of these stories, so it'd be interesting to see what you get. But I found that that's a really powerful thing to do, is just to understand why we have that voice, is to keep us safe. It's to keep us from ever feeling like whatever it is that was the origin of that story again. And so we need to understand that, and then we just turn it down. Yeah. Just turn it down. It's like, it's not going away. understand and accept that it's not going away. We're just going to turn the volume down. It's like turning the volume down on the speaker.
So funny,
on the
isn't it?
microphone.
Because it's like, that voice is there because it's our own internal, safety mechanism trying to keep us safe. And so the first thing to ask is, well, what is it trying to keep me safe from? Like, what do I actually gain by listening to this voice? What do I gain by believing in this story? And I guess what my other voice is now starting to do is like go, is that really true? And then try to find evidence that kind of disputes it, because like it can just be so, what's the word? Like, it can just stop you, can it?
Paralyzing?
Like, actually,
the word I use
in your tracks.
Yeah.
And you can be there. I love, and I think that, like you say, this can be in all aspects of life. And I'm guessing that with the work that you're doing, you're helping people with so many different aspects of their life and where that's showing up. And whereas mine's a lot more like in the business. And I was thinking, gosh, last week I had a client who, she had two things, and we literally blasted them both off in this in my group, which was amazing. But they're so common. She was like, "Well, I can't, put myself out there because I'm really casual, but I need to be professional." And I'm like, "Okay, well, so who's telling you that you need to be professional, and what does that even mean anyway?" And anyway, we're working through it. And I said, "Can you be professional and casual at the same time? Like, can you think of anybody who is?" And so we started to look for evidence that contradicted this belief that you can't be both, and that she couldn't therefore she couldn't be both, because she's like, she is professional in her work, but she's a casual person. I'm like, you've just told me right now that you're the same two things. You are casual and you're professional. So like, what is this voice telling you that you can't be both? You can't therefore put yourself out there. And it was so funny because she's like, oh, I hadn't even really thought about that, because it's just this like monologue going on inside the head.
Yeah.
When you get it out and talk about it, it's like, okay, well, let's just examine it. Let's kind of ask it a few questions and see what comes up. And it's so interesting how fast you can move it and shift it away, because it's often just something that's completely fabricated.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, I could share a real quick sort of personal story of how my voice stopped me and how it really did affect a lot of things. And so what the story that I just shared about, about myself, it had me be the ultimate people pleaser for a very, very long time. So I abandoned so much of myself in order to keep the people around me happy and make sure that I never upset anybody. So I'll let you read between the lines and figure out how this affected some of my relationships. But I did that for so long that I really did not know who I was. So when I wanted to have my own business and I wanted to, you can imagine why when I was like, okay, I need a brand, and I went to do that work, why this hit me so hard, because I didn't even know I was doing that. It was so unconscious or subconscious. Unconscious is asleep. Subconscious that I didn't even know that I was doing it. So when I uncovered the fact that I was doing that, then I had to go, okay, how else does this affect me? So the other thing was that I was a complete perfectionist in every way. And this affected me as a mum because, I couldn't just, for a long time, I couldn't have a messy house. I couldn't have, the kids had to be, everything had to be perfect all the time. And then that's how people saw me. So then I had to uphold this appearance. And this isn't in business. This is just life.
Yeah.
Right. I was always dressed well. I was my hair was always, I was a hairdresser. So I always had great hair, but I always had to have great hair because I was a hairdresser. That's what people wanted to see. Like I was just me. Yeah. And so now it's so, you can imagine why I feel so much more free, and the ability to just express myself in a way that I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
My partner that I'm with now, like he loves all the quirky things about me because that's who he got to know. I didn't put up a front when I met him to make him like me so that I could catch him, It was like, you're either going to like me or we're not going to be together. And, so if you think about that in terms of your business, like we were talking about before, it's like, imagine you know, coming out and having a business like that, where it's just like, this is who I am. You either want to work with me or you don't. You know what I mean? This is what I'm about. This is what I do. And I can help you do the same. This happens to be my business. But whatever it is that you do, if you do it in a way that is authentic to you, then it's never going to feel like work.
It's so true. And it's like, when you actually are able to show up as the real you, you attract people who vibe with it, who actually are like, yeah, I have the same values. I see the value. I like who you are. You're not having to work hard at it. And guess what? They're the best clients, aren't they? Because they actually aren't choosing you for any other reason. They're not choosing you for something fake or manufactured or whatever. Not, you know, like, people aren't choosing someone because of the surface level stuff. They choose you because of how they feel when they're connecting with you, and what they feel when they hear from you. And that is the most important thing. And it's so interesting because I often, you know, I think we're so aligned in how we think about this. You and me, we're like saying the same thing. It's amazing. But it's like, then when what I see as well, like, people go to create their service offering, and then they go back out to the external and start looking at what's going on in the market, what everyone else is doing, and like creating something they think will sell, that they think someone will like. And I'm like, can you please, like, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to you. How do you have your authority, real authority in a space, if you're not showing up as the real you, if you're not presenting what you think, what you've done, your way, your uniqueness? Like, all you're doing is being another, you know, seagull on the beach, all scrapping after the same chip. Like, go and be the beautiful swan. Like, be different on purpose. Like, but you don't have to try to be different. All you have to do is be you, because everyone else isn't being themselves. You just, it's so easy that it's like in front of us, and it's hard to do. But for me, I'm like, gosh, the difference that it makes. And this is why I love helping people with it, because it's like the amazing, it's actually just alignment that we do, like alignment, like, with yourself, alignment with your brand, alignment with who you are, and then your service offering in your business. When it's aligned, you attract the right people. It's actually what you do best. You help them get great results. It all works, and it's really easy. And it's hard when you're not in alignment. That's when it's not working. It's when it's like, oh, well, it's so price competitive out there. No, that's because you're trying to sell something that's off a shelf that everyone else is doing. Like, just come back to yourself, be you, be amazing. But yes, I think we have such a similar thought process around that.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just wondering, like, with the people pleasing, do you think that is what then starts the perfectionism, because you're constantly thinking about? Yeah, it's really interesting.
They're kind of hand in hand. I mean, so that, you know, that whole people pleasing thing started from very, very, very young. Like, I was a near perfect child. I don't say that with, you know, tickets on myself or anything. Like, people have told me that, my aunties and you know, grandparents and things. Like, I never really stepped out of line. Like, I just wanted the adults around me to be happy, and I chose to be good. That's just the way that I, you know, some people might be funny, like they're a funny kid, you know, like I was just good, right? And so that's how I chose to show up. But obviously, you're not always going to get it right. And sometimes you're going to get in trouble, or sometimes things are going to happen that are going to show you that maybe you're not that. And so, but this need to be good all the time and please people kind of came from a really long time ago. And the perfectionism, it goes hand in hand with it. It's like, well, I need to get really good grades. I need to be perfect. I need to, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, when I started building my own business, and I'm thinking about you, we were just saying around the service offering things, even I was guilty of that, knowing everything like we've just said, because that creeps back in. It always creeps back in. And I think that's why knowing, like, having a strategy or having some tools to deal with it when it does, because it's never not going to happen. I know that that's part of me. And in some ways, it can be harnessed and used for good, like I said before. You know, I do like to keep a nice home. I do like to have nice hair. There's nothing wrong with those things. But why are those things important to you is the thing, right? It's like, why do I like? Because I like it. It's not because of anyone else anymore. I like it. I like things to be neat. I like things to be color coordinated or whatever. I like it for me. Whereas once before I would have done it for different reasons. Now I do it for me. So it doesn't mean that it's not a good thing. It's just that we can harness it and make sure that it's coming from the right place. Like, what's the driving force behind you being that way? Is it healthy, or is it, being driven by that story?
Oh, goodness.
I think that answered your question.
Yeah, no, so much. And like, I think that we could do a whole nother episode, because I just started thinking like, oh my goodness, how are we programming our kids? And like, let's not even go there.
That is definitely a whole, happy to have a chat about that one at some point, because maybe you can come on my show and we can talk about that, because my audience is mums. But yeah, that's 100% why I think that it's super, super important for us as mums and as women, and now women of older children. I've got 4 daughters between us that are all over 15. Like, I don't want them to wait till they're 40 to figure out who they are.
No, exactly. And to like go through all of that time.
They are going to be someone different when they're 40. Let's be honest. I'm not the same person I was when I was 20, and neither will they. But to not have to go through so much of a, we don't want them to have an identity crisis when they're 40. Sure, we discover whatever, but let's actually be the example of somebody who's not pretending.
Yeah. Love it. And I think, if you've got to that point and you're around 40s and you're starting to just feel like that, then this might be actually what you need to have a look at, focus on, is actually you for a change, and deep dive into who you really are, what it is that you actually want. It's all the big questions, isn't it? I think it's so hard. We just total side tangent note, but we just came back from 8 months caravanning and around Australia. My husband hasn't been working while we were caravanning. He was our chief trip coordinator, and like you're in charge of the caravan and the trip, and anyway, it was a nice balance of responsibilities. But now he's back and he's like, what do I really want to do? Like, I don't really want to go back to a job like the same one. And I think he's having that moment as well of like all the big questions and asking, what is it that you really want? Because you try to patch it up with something surface level, and it's only going to last so long. You're going to be back in the hairdresser's seat saying the same thing in 3 months' time. Love it. It's such a funny analogy, but and true, real life as well. But I'm like, that's so true. That is what happens if we don't actually do the work and don't actually kind of really get to know ourselves. Is you're just going to be on repeat. The same story is going to keep happening again and again and again. So if people want to check out more about you and follow you and really get into this, I've loved this conversation today. Where can they best connect with you and find you?
Yeah, perfect. So there's a number of ways. I can give you a couple of specific links to make it easier for people, if you like, especially the quiz if they want to take that. But I'm quite like my platform of choice is Instagram. I don't know. I just like it there. But I am pretty much everywhere as Freed with a D, Freed to be you. But you can obviously contact me on my website as well. And just send me a link through there. Email through there. But I'd love to connect with anybody who's on the edge and needs that little bit of extra courage to get started and be themselves. Everyone should have that opportunity.
So true. And I want it for ourselves. I want it for our kids as well. Definitely trying to be that best support I can to my kids at the moment, and really want to nail that, because so much better when you can just show up as yourself, isn't it? Love it. Thank you so much, Meg. This has been such a great chat. I think that we could talk for hours and hours without even pausing. So much to say.
Hey, we're close enough. We could do that in person too.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of She's a Business podcast. I hope that you've been enjoying it as much as I have in creating the content to bring to you. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your presence and your attention. Now, if you love the podcast, or maybe you just loved today's episode, then I would absolutely appreciate it if you would go to Apple Podcasts, scroll down, hit the 5 stars, and then leave me a short review about what it was that you really enjoyed in this episode, or maybe in the podcast overall. And when I receive those reviews, then I love to give those reviewers a shout out on my future podcast episodes. So you never know, you may hear your name getting a shout out in a future episode if you do that. So thank you once again for your time, and I'll see you next time on She's the Business.